Greetings, and welcome to the Spooky Coop. I'm Paul.
And I am Michelle. And we're at the Spooky Coop.
Welcome to the Spooky Coop. Hope you're not chicken. And welcome to the Spooky Coop. Here in our high-tech spooky studios located near the foothills of haunted New Hampshire, where background noise is heard as moody ambience rather than unpleasant, distracting audio pollution, we present this week's story of the paranormal and just plain scary stuff. So strap in, wonderful listeners. Are you ready? Here we go. This week's spooky tale comes from Julia on the east coast of the United States. What follows is a tale of poltergeistic proportions. This is Julia's story. My name is Julia. Please keep my identity a secret. I've been applying to colleges, and I'm afraid if anyone reads this, I won't get in. When I was around 9 years old, my mom and dad got divorced, and my mom, my sister Katie, who was a couple of years older than me, and I moved across town to a big old house that was made into apartments a long time ago. It wasn't the greatest place, but Mom said it was all we could afford at the time until the lawyer made Dad pay the child support he owed, and then started making regular payments. But that's another story not worth telling. Not long after we moved in, Katie started having really bad dreams. She would wake up 1 or even 2 times a night screaming. She never remembered what she dreamed, but only knew her dreams were horrifying. They went on for a long time. Mom took her to the doctor. He said it was just distress from the divorce, and it would stop in time. He gave her some medicine to help her sleep. Don't ask me what it was now. I can't remember. All I know is it didn't work. Mom brought her back and forth to the doctors, even to a psychiatrist, but that didn't do any good either. I remember the first Christmas we were living there. Our upstairs neighbor, a friendly woman whom my mom liked, named Cheryl Macy, came down on Christmas Eve to celebrate with us, and she asked us some strange questions. The only one I remember was, had our Christmas tree fallen down a lot? I remember the question because the next morning when my sister and I woke up and ran to see what wonders Santa left under our tree, the tree had fallen onto its side, right over our precious gifts, spilling pine needles and broken ornaments across the living room floor. My sister and I were sure that Mrs. Macy broke in and pushed it over after Santa left. We never trusted her again and called her nasty names behind her back. On our first day of school after the Christmas to New Year's holiday, everything changed in our little home. It was really weird, and we felt we knew what was going on, because when my sister and I would get home from school, we'd find all the kitchen drawers and cabinets open, their contents all over the floor. The pillows on the sofa tossed, sometimes into other rooms, and our unmade beds spilled everywhere. Katie and I would have to rush to clean it all up before our mom got back from work at 6:30 p.m. I have to admit, I was a bit freaked out about it at first, but Katie assured me it was our psycho neighbor, crazy Cheryl Macy, causing trouble to scare us. That made sense. I wanted to tell Mom, but Katie explained we shouldn't tell on crazy Cheryl, because in truth she wanted to get rid of us. Mom was her best friend, so Katie believed that if we were seen as troublemakers, Mom would send us to live with Dad, and she would have Mom to herself. This happened day after day, but never when my mother was home, so I assume Katie was right. Still, she suffered from bad dreams every night. Then by the end of February, things started to get even stranger, and I started to wonder if it wasn't our neighbor after all. I was getting really excited because school vacation was coming, and that meant a whole week off, hanging out, watching cartoons, seeing Dad, and not having to clean up the house after the crazy neighbor trashed it for a whole week. Also, I turned 10 on March 4th, so there would be a party soon with cake, music, friends from school, games, and lots of fun. That's awesome for a 10-year-old. Yet, it was hard not to ignore the strange things going on in the apartment. Mom didn't seem to notice, and maybe she didn't want to scare us, but she didn't say anything at all. For me, it started with the knocking on the headboard of my bed at night. Every night, just as I was falling into that slumber-like state, when you're half dozing and half aware, on the edge of sleep, my headboard would start to knock. At first the knocking was gentle, like someone was tapping, but every few nights it seemed to get louder, sending me running to my mom's bed in total terror. When I was finally calm, Mom led me back to my own bed, heavy with sleep, and just as I started to sleep it would start again, banging and shaking my headboard back and forth, knocking against the wall. After Mom heard it several times, she came and laid in my bed with me, each time giving me the talk about how this old building has radiators for heat, and they make noises I've never heard before. And those noises pop and bang sometimes and turn into bad dreams. Of course, no bangs or knock happened when she was there. As soon as she left, it started to happen again. After a few nights of waking her, I remember she accused me of making it up for attention because of my sister's persistent bad dreams. From that night on, she refused to come into my room to sleep or let me in her bed. I didn't want to sleep with my sister, with her waking up screaming every night, so I started sleeping with Mr. Muggles, my stuffed teddy bear. He was going to save my life. He gave me some comfort, especially after I decided to grab my pillow and blanket and sleep on the sofa from then on. The living room was better, except for the voices. I could hear voices talking. I could never make out what they were saying, but I could live with the mumbling. I would just sing to Mr. Muggles until I fell asleep. One night Katie came down to the living room, but I swear to God it wasn't Katie. She looked like Katie, but she had deep, dark eyes. Katie's eyes are sky blue. Her voice sounded like Katie's voice. Her face and hair looked like Katie's. She even talked like Katie. Nevertheless, I knew with every piece of sinew of my being that it wasn't her. Not really. Our conversation went something like this. "Why are you sleeping on the sofa?" she asked. "It's better here," I said. "You can still die on the sofa," she replied. "I don't want to die." I was starting to tear up. "How come you said that?" "The people told me to." Her voice was as flat and cold as a gravestone. "What people?" I was shaking, looking around. "Those people." She pointed to the kitchen. It was easy to see from the living room. As she spoke, the drawers and cabinet doors started opening and closing, slamming hard, all on their own. I began to scream. As if waking from a deep dream, my screams seemed to jolt Katie to consciousness, and she also started screaming. My mom, terrified by our screams, ran to us and saw the kitchen drawers and cabinets opening and slamming shut all on their own. As she watched in shock, the cutlery and dishes appeared to jump from the drawers and shelves under their own power, and the faucet in the kitchen turned off and on by itself. I remember my mom saying only two things as she stood there, eyes wide as dinner plates, as she tried to take in the totally petrifying scene. The first was, "No wonder the rent was so damn cheap." The second was, "Quick, girls, get your shoes and coats. I'm bringing you to your dad's for the night." We hurried, and we did what she said. We ran towards the front door and grabbed our coats and slipped into our boots. Mom did the same. I remember her looking really surprised when the front door opened. The three of us ran out to the curb and into our car and sped off. We never saw that place again. Mom never let us go back, not even to get our stuff. We stayed at my dad's house for a few days, then went to live with my grandmother for a while. Mom found a new place for us to live, and thank all the angels in heaven, nothing like that has ever happened to us again. Maybe now you understand why I don't want to use my name. Most people would probably think I'm either making this all up, or I just imagined it all to cope with my parents' divorce and having to live in such a terrible place. I wouldn't blame you. I'm afraid any universities I have applied to may believe the same. Yet I assure you, what I have told you is factual in all aspects to the best of my memory, as well as Katie's and my mom's. We just talked about it, which gave me the courage to write this to you. Thank you for reading this. Yours truly, Julia. Well, dear listeners, what do you think of Julia's story? Fact or fiction? You decide. As you ponder this and more, have a wonderful week until next time, when we see you in the spooky coop.